Well, hello and good morning again. Welcome to the Sunday morning satsang. My name is Ayush. I think most of you know me, but for a few that don't, my name is Ayush. Hello, Ravish. Good. Nice to see you. And Hashish and Rajnaji. Welcome. So as I was reflecting on what to speak about today, I've been thinking a lot recently about prayer and its effectiveness, and I thought I'll share a few thoughts with you about that. You know, how should we pray, and how should we pray so that we receive God's response? Because that is really what we want. Many years ago, I was just reflecting. Many years ago, when I used to pray, I used to sort of be giving God a list of things that I want. Sort of a list of my desires. Like, oh God, I want this big bonus at work, and I want this nice big house by the beach, and I want this nice Mercedes Benz. And I would also tell him, well, these are things I don't want. So I sort of don't want this little illness that I'm having. Can you please take that away? And this that irritating person at work. Please can you figure out some solution for that? So those kind of things. And it was, I think that the impression that we also sometimes, I was certainly running with, was that life should just be easy and comfortable. And it's sort of God's role to sort of be the Mr. Fixer, that anything that I find that's uneasy or uncomfortable, I just have to tell him and he'll take care of it. But very surprisingly, I used to then wonder why God simply didn't bother to respond to any of all those demands. And I used to really reflect on that. I was like, well, I'm praying and just nothing is happening. And then sort of the mind wants to almost sort of put the blame on the difficulties that are happening in our lives on other external circumstances, on other people, for example. So because I would say, the reason I feel so upset is because my girlfriend treated me so badly, for example, or the reason I feel upset is because my mother-in-law has been talking horribly to me of late. Or we say, the reason I'm feeling unhappy is because I just received the notice from the income tax department and they are sort of chasing me. Or now these days the GST department, if not the income tax department. And the best one I've heard of late is basically the reason I'm feeling so unhappy is because Mr. Narendra Modi has decided to change the tax rules and to change to remove half the currency in my pocket, which is the reason why everything is just going horribly, which is why I'm feeling so bad. So in a nutshell, we always tend to say that the reason why I'm feeling this pain in my consciousness is because some external factor is causing that particular pain. But when we come onto the spiritual path, we start to really realize and understand that, well, there's really nothing outside of ourselves that is actually really causing that pain. We are really the architects of not only our circumstances, but we're also the architects of essentially our consciousness and what we experience in our consciousness. And Yogananda says very unequivocally that God made us perfect. He made us that we are divine. And he gave us free will, and he also gave us the power to reason. Now, interestingly, if we actually choose to align that free will and that power to reason with the divine will, then we will experience joy. We will experience that divine joy. But if we choose to break those divine laws, then we will experience unhappiness, or we will experience suffering. And very interestingly, Yogananda uses this phrase, this law obviously works perfectly. He says that for every action we essentially receive lawful results. So really, when we start to understand that, well, we ourselves are responsible for our own consciousness, the idea, of course, is not to use this line of reasoning to point the blame at ourselves and say, oh, I'm such a horrible person, and I'm guilty, and all of that. But to really empower ourselves, to really say that, well, if I am the architect of my circumstances and my creation, my consciousness, then essentially I have the power to undo that, I have the power to change that as well. And the most amazing thing is that not only do we rely on our own power, but we actually have the power of God that is behind us to support us. As long as we know how to tap into that power, as long as we know how to ask for the help in the right way. And that is really where prayer comes in. And the reason why many times when we pray, Yogananda says the reason why prayers are really not effective is because very often they lack concentration. So think about it, when we're really praying, are we really fully engrossed in that prayer? Or is our mind sort of running away in all sorts of 10 directions, thinking about many other things? And very importantly, is the feelings of our heart, are they really involved in that prayer? Or are we sort of again thinking about, is our heart sort of, these desires and those desires are really sort of taking away from the power of the prayer? So essentially, we need to give our prayers power. And for that, Yogananda has actually given us, in fact, a whole book. It is Whispers from Eternity. And you can sort of think of this book almost as a manual on how to pray. It's just the most beautiful book. And Yogananji, in fact, writes at the back of the book, he says, there are 3 Bibles from which I draw my inspiration. He says, the Christian Bible, the Hindu Bhagavad Gita, and my whispers from eternity, which were given to me by God. And Swamiji, in fact, writes in the preamble of this book. So Swamiji, Master wrote this book and Swamiji edited it. As Swamiji writes, he says, I consider this book the supreme contribution, spiritually speaking, of my life. Now, both those statements by Master and Swamiji are very, very powerful statements. And as disciples of this path, it really behooves us to really stand up and pay attention to why Master and Swamiji are actually saying those things. And I've seen this certainly for myself, and I suspect for some of you as well, that you sort of seen this book and you sort of glance by it and you sort of know that it exists, but you don't really tune into it and don't really grasp the power that's sort of offered in this book. So I just want to share some thoughts which will hopefully help us tune into this book and sort of go deeper with that. As Yogananji writes here, that he says these prayer demands that he calls them, he says they were given to him by God and they are really not his own. And the way Yogananji describes it, he says that essentially the experience of that prayer is something that Master experienced, and that's something that he's now articulated in words. And he does say that the words are incomplete in expressing that spirit that's behind it. So he urges us as devotees to really, and he almost says very beautifully and very poetically, he says, penetrate the ink and the paper to sort of see the power that's really behind and sort of draw on that particular power. Because that's the path that we're trying to access. When you really sort of go through this book and you sort of start reflecting, you actually see that this book has a prayer for each and every circumstance or situation that a true devotee would ultimately experience in their lives. So say, for example, if we're, say, having financial difficulties, for example, Yogananji Master gives us a prayer for prosperity. And so in fact, the name of that prayer is, it's a demand for prosperity. He says, Thou art my father, I am thy child. So if we're, for example, feeling sad and depressed, Master gives us a prayer so that we can become cheerful and happy. So he calls it, Make me a smile millionaire. If we're feeling guilty about past mistakes and want freedom from past errors and from the guilt, he gives us a prayer, I am the butterfly of eternity. What if we're facing a chronic disease and if we're facing possibly the prospect of death? Yogananji gives us a prayer. He says, I am thy bird of paradise, wishing to fly in thy astral airplane. And if we feel no devotion, Master gives us a prayer. He says, he gives us demand for fervor and divine love. So really and the book goes on and on when you see it, to really each and every situation that we can possibly imagine, we have a prayer for that. And most importantly, it's Yogananji gives us the right spiritual attitude that we need to adopt when we're in that situation, so that we can essentially use God's power to come out of it. And that is very, very important to understand. What is the right attitude? And Swamiji always emphasizes this a lot. He will always say the right attitude is one of the most important things in the spiritual path. The Kali Yuga way of praying was that we're sort of this beggar and we're trying to appease this king who has this power, and somehow we have to flatter him, or somehow we have to persuade him, or sometimes we have to nag him to give us what we want. And essentially it's based on his will. If he wants to give us something, he'll give it to us, or otherwise he'll just ignore us. But Master says that is not the right way to pray. The right way to pray is the way in which a child demands of his parents, and the way the child loves his parents. He says that is a relationship that we have with God. He is our divine father, he is our divine mother. And Yogananji very beautifully says that God is the nearest of the near, the dearest of the dear. And think about our own relationship with our children. If our children demand something of us, and that we know is good for them, won't we go out of our way to actually make that happen? We will, of course, right? And think about it, God of course loves us infinitely more than our own parents love us. So, He's waiting for us to really ask so that He can fulfill those demands. But of course, at the same time, if the parent knows that if the child is asking for something that is not appropriate and that is not going to be helpful, no matter how much a child likes it, the parent is not going to give it to him, right? And that is exactly the way God also looks at us. So, there's a great amount of warmth and comfort that we can expect, but at the same time we have to sort of tune into that relationship of the child and the parent, which is why Jesus also said in his teaching, he says that if you ask your father for a loaf of bread, will he give you a stone? So we always must remember that relationship is very real, and we need to kind of get tuned into that. So, how should we pray? And Yogaji really gives us just a few methods. He says that select one demand from this book, one demand that is appropriate to our present circumstances that we're currently facing, that we could really tune into. So, and I gave you some examples, and of course, if you get a chance to go through this book, you will really get many more examples that are very, very specific to exactly the situation that you're facing. So, select one demand, focus on that. Then Yogaji says, calm your mind, meditate with a straight spine, so that the restlessness that is currently there in the mind, that is what draws the power away. And Master uses this example of a wet matchstick. He says that if you take a wet matchstick and you keep trying to strike it to produce that spark, it will just not produce any light. But if you essentially, and that's exactly what happens to the restless mind. The restless mind essentially takes the power away from the mind. So we need to calm the mind, we need to center ourselves. Then we need to read and we need to meditate on that particular demand until it really becomes really part of us. So we need to, of course, read it again and again, read it very slowly, really try and tune into that demand. And we need to sort of understand, not only understand it mentally, but really almost enter into that image. And we'll try and do an example of this a little bit later, just so that we can get a feel for that. Because the images that Master uses in this book are just so poetic, they're so beautiful, and they sort of go in these amazing directions, and it really helps us to visualize and tune into that, and like I said, really enter into that image. And then Master says, then you saturate that demand with devotion, because really without the heart's feelings and being involved, you really never be able to progress. So of course, expressing great love for God and for Guru, but also really for the opportunity that we've been given to really transcend these limitations. Whatever that, like I said, circumstances we're currently kind of in, we have the power to break out of that, and the prayer is going to help us for that. So we need to really completely engage the heart. We need to feel, we need to cry from the inner self, saying that I really can actually do this. And you become so immersed in that particular demand that it actually really becomes part of you. It's really, and when you offer the demand up, it's really this outburst from your own heart rather than someone else's prayers. The phrase of "I love you" is such a cliche phrase. I mean, we've all said it, we've all heard it. But when that same phrase is said by a lover to his beloved, from the feeling of his heart, it's almost as though that phrase had never been said before, right? And that's exactly the same with this demand as well. That once you make it your own, and once it's the outpouring of your own heart, it's almost that prayer is the first time it's actually being said. And then and Yogananda says that pray with that demand, and have deep faith that demand is actually being received by God. So it's again as the child has actually made that offering up to God, and then you sort of have to have this faith that if I'm God's child, when I'm talking, He's listening. And again, think of the relationship that we have with our children. When our children talk to us, do we sort of just sort of half pay attention? Maybe for the tough children we do, but not joking. But I think for all children, when the child talks, the parent listens. So, and that's why Jesus used to also say, "Pray, believing that you are being heard." And then he said, once you offer that demand, you go about your daily duties in the deep conviction that your demand has that your parent, that God has actually received that demand, and then it is really up to the parent to take care of circumstances. And you find that, of course, if you unceasingly meditate and if you unceasingly love God, you'll find that you will feel His response, and a very specific response to that particular demand. I want to actually share the story that just came to my mind right now. I just want to share this, that when Yogananda was a little boy, probably about 4 or 5 years old, young boy in his home, and he noticed that a lot of his family members used to receive letters the postman used to come and deliver letters, but no one used to write letters to him, to a young boy. So he used to just keep wondering, and he was a bhakta right from his childhood. So he would always wonder, why has God not written a letter to me? So somewhere I think when he goes and asks his mother, saying that I have not received a letter from God, why has the letter not come? So his mother very sweetly said, well, you have to write a letter first, and then God will reply to you. So very quickly he writes a little letter. You can imagine just Yogananji Mukunda as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old boy writing this letter to God, and then he puts it in an envelope, and then on the envelope he writes, to God in heaven, as the address. And then he actually goes and posts it in the post box. And then he's waiting and waiting, and every day he goes, and he's waiting for the postman to come, and he goes, runs up to the postman, says, oh, is my reply, has my reply? And the postman says, no. And 1 day goes by, and 2 days go by, and 3 days go by, and it keeps happening, and then he doesn't get a reply. And he's really now upset, because he's written to God, and God has not replied, and he's really upset, and then he's deeply praying, and then he's sitting in meditation, and then really amazingly, God actually answers him in meditation. So the story goes that he actually sees a very specific reply to each and every answer that he's written in that letter. So we know from that story that God is listening to what we ask, and essentially has the ability to answer us very, very specifically. So keeping that in mind, and before we actually get into a prayer of our own, I just thought it would be helpful to just hear Yogananji praying so that we can tune into that same vibration, we can tune into that same power, and really pay a lot of attention, not just to the words, but really pay attention to the intensity of his heart's feeling, the devotion, really the sort of the aspect of the demand aspect that Yogananji is trying to communicate to us. That as child, if we ask him a prayer, how should we really ask? So let's hear that.
The day is done, refreshed and sanctified with the sunshine of the day. I pass to the portals of evening, dimly adorned with faint stars, to enter into the temple of silence and worship thee. I worship thy spirit of approaching calmness. What prayer shall I offer? For I have no words to offer thee. I shall light a little fire of devotion on the altar of my soul. Will that light suffice to bring thee into my dark temple, my dimly lighted temple, dark with my ignorance? Come, I crave, I yearn for thee, my beloved, my infinite beloved. Come into the temple of eventide and receive the unctuous fervor of my soul. In the temple of darkness, thou and I, my beloved, ever in the eternal oneness of spirit, all the fragrance of my devotion, all the deepest love of my heart, I lay at thy feet of eternity. Receive, my beloved, receive. In thy omnipresence, I spread my devotion everywhere. Receive, my devotion, receive. Receive the call of my heart. Receive the call of all our hearts. The harmony of our hearts, the symphony of our devotion spreads everywhere from the incense bath of our souls. Our beloved, kind spirit, receive the devotion of our souls. We pluck the blossoms of devotion from the garden of our souls and make a bouquet for thee. Receive what is ours and what came from thee. Infinite beloved, infinite spirit, thou hast created us against our will. Free us. This is our prayer from our hearts. Beloved, listen to our prayer. Listen to the unctuous fervor of our souls. Receive our humble offering in the temple of eventide.
Just take a moment to feel that power of that prayer, to feel the vibrations of Master's voice. Tuning into that real devotion that's there in his heart, that's there in all our hearts. Waiting to be offered to the Divine Mother. So let's read one of Master's demands, and then let's go through that a little bit more detail together, so that we can really tune into these prayers. So I'm just going to read this first, and this is, I love this one. It's one of my favorites. It's "Make me thy butterfly of eternity." And as I said, the prayer, this is really about getting rid of all our past karma, past fears, future fears, guilt. And really sort of breaking out and offering and really realizing that we are divine in our real potential. So let me read this. Make me thy butterfly of eternity. I have burnt my past, destroying every seed of evil destiny. I have stridden bravely through the strewn ashes of my past and future fears. I am the eternal now, having torn to shreds my enclosing cocoon of ignorance with the sharp knife of free will. Now I am thy soaring butterfly of eternity, flitting freely through immeasurable skies of time. The beauty of my wings I spread out through nature everywhere to entertain all beings. My wings are sprinkled with suns and stardust. Lo, I am beautiful. May every silken thread that shrouded my past folly be severed forever. See, they trail now behind me, only adding to my beauty as I wing my way to my own self in thee. So let's go through this a little bit more detail. So when we say, I have burnt my past, destroying every seed of evil destiny. Now, it's amazing when you actually think about it, how much time we actually spend reminiscing about our past, worrying about the things that we've done, our karmic seeds, etc., etc. And in this prayer, we're simply saying, you know what? I just burnt it all. I've set alight with the power of my devotion all the things that used to hold me back, and essentially it's just gone. Very interesting, he says, every seed of evil destiny. So many of those seeds, karmic seeds, in fact, the same thing that the vrittis that we're trying to work with when we do our Kriya Yoga practice, essentially we have the power to get rid of them. So we say, you know what, I've burnt it all. And now, I've stridden bravely through the strewn ashes of my past and future fears. So think about it, and what I'm urging you to do is really try and visualize these images, because that is why your Master has given these to us, and we'll try and make them real. So think about it. I have now burnt my entire past and all my seeds of destiny, and now I have the ashes of those lying around me, and essentially I'm striding through them bravely through the strewn ashes of my past and my future fears as well. So I not only have I given up what I'm worried about in the past, but I've also given up worrying about what is going to happen in the future. I am the eternal now. So essentially, time does not exist for me anymore. I am here in the present. And how many of us actually continue to always live? We're either living in the past or we're living in the future, but we're not really living in the now. So we're here. We're using this also as an affirmation. It's a prayer. It's an affirmation saying that I am the eternal now. It's not just I am in the eternal now, I am the eternal now. Having torn to shreds my enclosing cocoon of ignorance. Now think about it. Doesn't it actually feel that way when we're actually constantly worrying about our past, about our karma, about what we've done, about what we should have done, what the other person should have done, etc. We almost feel sort of enclosed in this sort of cocoon and sort of wrapped around and around with all those things that are holding us back. So I'm saying essentially, and I've not just sort of taken it apart gently, I've literally torn it to shreds. And I have done that with the sharp knife of my free will. So I have this sort of sharp knife that has been given to me by God of my free will, and I've essentially taken it, I've just done chop, 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 I just get rid of it, I'm just breaking out of it. And that's the kind of the power that we essentially need to sort of bring. We're not simply saying, oh yeah, just a little bit of work that needs to be done on this. No, it's just, I'm just getting rid of it all. Now I am thy soaring butterfly of eternity. So I was sort of this ugly little worm sitting inside this worm cocoon, but now that I've torn all of that to shreds, I have now evolved and I have now become this butterfly. And I'm a butterfly of eternity, flitting freely through immeasurable skies of time. So essentially, I am not bound by anything. I'm not bound by my past, I'm not bound by my future. And immeasurable skies of time. Now just visualize an image that you sort of visualize eternity. And we're sort of this beautiful butterfly that's just floating completely free. And we all as children, and I'm sure that even as adults, when you see a butterfly, what do you feel? Right? The butterfly sort of comes flitting and sort of either sits on you or sits on a flower. It just brings this joy, and there's so much it's very light and it's very free. And every one of us in this room loves to watch a butterfly, right? So that's what we've essentially become. The beauty of my wings, I spread out through nature everywhere to entertain all beings. Now this is what I love about Master's prayers, is that not only are we actually working on ourselves and we're working on our own spiritual path, but he also brings in others. He always reminds us constantly that not only are we doing this for ourselves, but we're also here to serve others and to look after others. And Yogananda used to say that life, the purpose of life was designed for both our education and for our entertainment. And so our responsibility, if we're this beautiful butterfly, then we have that beauty and we must share that beauty with others as well. My wings are sprinkled with suns and stardust. Lo, I am beautiful. And so till now we were thinking that we were this sort of ugly worm sitting in this cocoon, all wrapped up in our past, but now I am beautiful. And the way to think about it, again, it's an affirmation, but it's also an affirmation of truth, that we are beautiful in our souls. And what Yogananda is really asking us to do is asking us to see ourselves as God sees us, because God sees us as light. Yogananda used to say to the disciples who were with him, he says, you don't know how beautiful you are, because he said that I can only see light, whereas you see, your karma and you see this and that, but I only see light. So that's what we need to affirm, because that's what our reality is. And then he says, may every silken thread that shrouded my past folly be severed forever. So it's all gone. See, they trail now behind me, only adding to my beauty as I wing my way to my own self in thee. And this is again just a beautiful touch that Master brings in. The past, that is sort of the ashes that have been strewn behind and the cocoon threads that are lying behind me, it's sort of reminding us that we had to go through that experience to become this beautiful butterfly. So essentially, all of those things are trailing behind me, but they've essentially added to my beauty, and so we must kind of recognize and put that into context. And as I wing my way to my own self in thee, so essentially all we're doing is really expanding our potential, expanding our awareness, essentially to become infinite. So I really urge you to pick one of these demands, just play with it, experiment with it, and you'll find great results, and you'll find really a deep response from God when you really tune into that with devotion and with power. Yogananda very beautifully, he calls them his answered prayers, which means that essentially a portal has already been opened. These prayers have already been answered. All we need to do essentially is step into that vibration so that these prayers can really become real for us. So when we pray going forward, try not to pray to be rescued. So usually that's what we do. We say, God rescue me, rescue me. Instead of that, we actually say, well, God teach me how I can learn, how I can become bigger, how I can become better. And instead of praying to God for things, instead pray to God for really giving us the mastery over our consciousness, because really that is the only project that's going on. What God is doing, He's training our consciousness. And if we have mastery over our consciousness and we realize our divinity, then we essentially have really dominion over the whole universe, because whatever is the Father's belongs to the child. So if we pray with that power and conviction, but we have to bring in our power into it as well. It's not that God is going to simply give it to us. When we add our power, that's when God sort of comes in and hits us. Which is why Yogananda used to say the highest prayer is, I will reason, I will, I will act, but guide thou my reason, thought and activity to the right course and everything. So our involvement must be there, but once we are engaged in that activity, then essentially God steps us and He guides us and He helps us. And I just want to end with a few lines from this poem that Yogananda wrote, and just a few lines from the whole poem. The poem is called When I'm Only a Dream. And Master writes, when you are able no longer to talk to me, read my whispers of eternity. Eternally through that I will talk to you. Unknown, I will walk by your side and guard you with invisible arms. So let's end this satsang now with a little arti. And instead of playing a chant, I thought we'll just play a beautiful prayer song that Swamiji actually wrote. And I think most of you are probably familiar with this song. It's called Cloisters. And it's one of my favorite songs of Swamiji. So I thought we'll play this. And this particular recording, Swamiji plays this, singing this, a little bit in Italian, a little bit in English. So really, but try and tune into the feeling of the song. And you'll find that, and try to really awaken the devotion of your heart and offer it up to God in the way that Swamiji is offering it up. So let's just do that. So I request everyone.
Dal mio cuore ti chiamo, Signore, quanti anni che piango per te, quanti anni che sogno vederti, o Signor, oggi vieni a me. Non lasciarmi più così solo qui, sono sempre tu, verrai tu. Long I've called you my Lord, long I've called you. Many years I have longed for your sight. Bathe the darkness with tears of devotion, offered candles in prayer to your light. How much longer, friend, must I cry your name? I am yours, ever yours. Will you come? Dal mio cuore ti chiamo, Signore. Quanti anni che piango per te. Quanti anni che sogno vederti, o Signor, oggi vieni a me, non lasciarmi più così solo qui, sono sempre tu, verrai